welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about the leg extension and leg curl machines that I tried out at Home Gym Con. And I'm going to be just giving my opinions on which ones I thought were the best and worst, based on largely my own personal preferences and philosophies on training and exercise selection and that sort of thing. So, you can take it with a grain of salt. I'm not going to claim that the ones that I like the best are going to be the best for everyone else. These are just like my opinions, man. But at the same time, I do have reasons for holding the opinions I do, so I will try to explain why I think certain things are better than others as we go along. And if you're wondering why I'm just talking over this segment here, it's because I already did an entire 20-minute video on the dialed motion leg developer attachment. So definitely check that out for a lot more in-depth analysis of what's going on here. But just to summarize, I really like the attachment. I think it's going to be great. It's still a prototype. They have some kinks to work out. You'll see in the video here, and I talked about it at length in that other video, that the issue we had was the floor of the convention center was very slick, so the bench was sliding. Probably not going to be an issue on, if you have it on stall mats. And even if you are strong enough to make it slide on stall mats, it would be easy to figure out some sort of a physical barrier. The easiest thing would be, cut a length of 2x4, lay it down on the floor in between the bench and the rack, and then the bench isn't able to slide anymore. So I don't think that's really an issue to worry about. But anyway, here you can see the problems we were having as a result of the bench sliding, which was that the cable was retracting back into the unit and causing me to lose range of motion at the bottom. So again, that won't be a problem as long as the bench is fixed in place. So again, since I already covered this attachment in depth, I'm going to just use this footage to talk over and give some of the criteria by which I'm judging the other machines and this one as well. So the main things I'm looking for are, first of all, range of motion. I don't want a leg extension where my knees start at 90 degrees and I don't even get close to any kind of a stretch on my quads. And then, obviously, same for the hamstrings on the seated leg curl, although that's not typically as much of an issue. And then also, for me, a huge factor is the resistance profile. What I'm looking for in both the leg extension and the leg curl is a lengthened biased resistance profile, meaning that it's hardest at the start of the movement in the stretched or the lengthened position, and then the resistance falls off and gets easier as you go to the shortened or contracted position. Now I know that's a very debated and argued about topic on the internet in the last couple of years. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every single exercise has to be the most lengthened, overloaded possible, and any exercise that's not like that is complete trash and you should throw it out and never do it. I don't believe that. I think there's a place for exercises that have a more shortened overload in the program. But I do generally believe, based on what I know of the science and anecdotes of other lifters and my own personal experience, I do believe that on a set for set basis, you're going to get the most stimulus for muscle growth out of movements that are more lengthened, overloaded, and challenging in that lengthened position compared to a movement that is all focused on the contraction. So for me, if I'm going to have a dedicated machine to doing 2 exercises, or a dedicated attachment that is going to take up space in my gym and cost a lot of money, then to to me it makes more sense to have it be one that is designed biomechanically to be the most effective as it can be per set for those movements that I'm doing, because I have, a limited amount of space, limited amount of money to spend on gym equipment. So if I'm going to do that, then it needs to be something that is worth making a staple in my program, that I'm going to be doing all the time, not just something that, you know, maybe I'll throw in here and there for fun, or, it's just a decent way to add a little extra volume. So as I said in the other video, one of the things I do really like about the dialed motion attachment is that it is designed to be lengthened biased. The shape of the cam makes it so that it's hardest at the start and then it lightens up towards the end of the movement. So it has that going for it. The other factor that I consider, range of motion, resistance profile, and then the other big thing is the felt weight. So, in other words, uh, am I going to max out the entire stack and do like over 20 reps with this machine, or am I going to be able to get into a decent rep range, which for me is, you know, I don't really want to be over 15 reps on leg extensions or leg curls if I can help it. Um, I like the 10 to 15 range a lot for those exercises. It would be nice to even go heavier at times, but I don't want to be like 20 plus reps, because the higher reps you go, especially on these two exercises, it seems like the just more painful and grueling it gets. And as I say that, you see me here doing a set of 50 on these leg curls, which still wasn't even to failure, because there was like a miscommunication and they took some weight off, even though that's not what I was asking them to do. But you know, that's fine. It's just it would have been nice to have tried the leg curls with a heavier weight too, but that's just how it went. But for the leg extensions on this attachment, I was actually impressed with how heavy it felt for the weight that was on there. It only had 115 pounds on it, and it again, it's hard because there was all the fussing with the machine trying to like fix the slippage issue. So there was like some rest in the middle of the set, as like 40 seconds of rest trying to like figure out what was going on. But I did like 7 reps and then we messed with the machine for like 40 seconds and then I did another like 15 and a half. So, I got like 22 reps or so, um, but with some rest in between. So if I was doing just like a straight set, I wouldn't have got 22 reps with that weight. It would have been probably, I don't know, in the 15 to 20 range somewhere. Maybe I would have got like 18 or 19 or something like that. But that's pretty good because on my setup at home, which I'm going to show in a second here, uh, I use 210 pounds, and that puts me in like the 15 rep range. So that compares pretty well, pretty favorably to my current setup, which I actually really like. And I'm going to show you that here in a second. All right, so this is a setup that I have in my home gym, and I'm just showing you this because I want you to understand what it is that I'm comparing all of these other machines to. And also, this will show you exactly what I mean when I talk about one of these machines being lengthened biased, and what I'm looking for in that regard. So you can see on this setup here, it's a Titan plate-loaded leg extension leg curl machine. But as you can see, I don't actually use plates to load it. I have it hooked up to a cable, which is running to my Bells of Steel cable tower. And the key thing here is, if you look when I freeze it here in the bottom position, you notice I have a really good stretch on the quads, as much as you can get with a leg extension. Really, I mean, I have my feet as far back as it can go here. It's hard to get in and out of the machine because I have to like wiggle into it. But then also, look at the lever arm where the weight horn is attached. That lever arm there is almost perpendicular to the cable at the start of the movement. Whenever the cable is perpendicular to the lever arm here, that is going to be the peak resistance of this setup here. That's going to be when the felt weight is the highest. So I have it set up so that it's almost at the very bottom. So the start of the movement is the hardest, and then as you go past that perpendicular point, it starts to drop off, and it actually drops off quite a bit at the top. So that makes this a very lengthened biased movement because the greatest load, the greatest challenge to overcome is in the lengthened position of the muscle or the stretch position at the start of the movement. And that also matches the strength curve of your quads in the leg extension. You're naturally stronger at the bottom than you are in that full extension at the top. And the way you can tell which part of the range of motion an exercise is biased towards is to look for the point where you actually hit failure in the exercise. So if you fail at the bottom of the movement, then that means that the exercise is lengthened biased if you fail at the start. If you hit failure at the top of the movement and then you can continue to do a bunch of like lengthened partials, getting less and less range of motion, like basically every standard back exercise, that's a very shortened bias movement. So just watch, you just have to go to failure and watch where that failure point is, and that's going to tell you whether it's lengthened or shortened bias. So here you'll see, as I get to failure, because of the resistance profile here, I can grind through that last rep all the way to the end, or like 95%. It goes really slow, but it gets all the way to almost the full range of motion. See right here. And then I try to go for another one, and I get stuck. I fail at the bottom. So to me, that's kind of like the holy grail of any sort of machine exercise where you're trying to manipulate the resistance profile. Like, I want to be able to get that last rep, just a really slow grinder all the way to the end, but actually be able to complete the full range of motion, and then try to do another rep and I fail right at the start. To me, that's the ideal lengthened biased sort of exercise resistance profile. So just to show you here, I have the seated leg curl set up, the same way. I don't have to turn the machine around or anything. I just flip the arm back to the other side, and basically it works the same way. It's very close to perpendicular right at the start of the movement, and you can see just by looking at the angle of the cable here, look how far away the cable is from the pivot point. That's the moment arm that is determining how hard the exercise is at any given point, or I should say how heavy the felt weight is at any given point. It starts out farther away from the pivot point at the bottom, like the farthest away from the pivot point right at the bottom. And as it goes up, it gets very close. So you can look at this and say, yeah, there's like hardly any weight at the top. And some people would, think that that's a problem. But to me, that's perfect, because that means I can grind through that last rep. It's very slow. It's very difficult, but I can get just barely all the way through it. And then I fail at the start of the next rep that I try. So that's what I'm looking for when I say lengthened biased resistance profile. That's what I'm comparing these other machines against. So with that in mind, let's keep going and check out the other machines at Home Gym Con. This is the new Rogue / Reflex. I think they basically bought the design and they're gonna go ahead and start making this. But let's see. It fell off. I gotta adjust this pad so I can get a full stretch.
got 150 pounds on here. I can tell you already that it doesn't feels very light in the bottom. Oh yeah, I do not like the resistance curve of this machine. Yeah, it starts out light and it just gets heavy. Very shortened overload. Not really my cup of tea. I mean, you'll get a pump, but, and honestly, I'm at 150 here. I feel like I can full stack this, no problem.
First impressions?
It's very light in the bottom, which I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, it's more like, I mean, you get a big pump, you know, and it's like heavy at the top, but I rather, like, I have a Titan plate-loaded one, but I hook it up to a cable tower, and I set up the angle of the cable so it's like heaviest at the bottom. And I really like getting that like heavy in the stretch position, but I don't know, we'll see. Because I feel like I'm going to be able to wrap out the full stack on this, based on, I did like 150 a second ago and it felt pretty light.
It's a 1-to-1.
Yeah, but the size of the cam compared to where the ankle pad is, you know.
So what I just said there is a pretty key thing to understand. If you look at the size of the cam, look how much smaller the diameter of the cam is, or rather the radius of the cam, even at the widest point, compared to the length from the pivot point all the way down to the shin pad. So, even though the stack is on a 1-to-1 cable system, the lever for your feet is so much longer that you just have a huge mechanical advantage anyway. So the felt weight is going to be reduced drastically because of that. And if you look at my Titan machine, the weight horn is pretty much the same length away from the pivot point as the foot roller. So that is going to give you, basically, if you consider that like a true 1-to-1 ratio, then this would be like, I don't know, maybe a third of that at the widest part of the cam. And that's why I can do, you know, over 20 reps with a full 250-pound stack. Now right here, you can see as I get to failure, I fail in the shortened position, but I can still do just several lengthened partials, just getting less and less range of motion. And that's how you know that this is a very shortened bias movement. So it's complete opposite of what I got with my machine at home, where I get all the way to the end and then I try to do one more rep and I fail at the bottom.
That was like 22 or something like that.
So yeah, as you can probably tell, not a fan at all of this Rogue machine. Now, apparently they might be completely redesigning it, but if that's the case, I don't know why they even brought it to Home Gym Con, because I didn't talk to anyone who liked it. Everyone said it was terrible, and I agree with that. So besides the resistance profile, you know, the stack being super light, it was just a pain to get in and out of and make the adjustments and try to get the pad back far enough to get a good stretch in the legs. Like, nothing about it was good. I didn't even try leg curls on it, just because, I mean, I hated the leg extensions, so I didn't really want to bother with the leg curls.
Unfortunately, I managed to break the Bulletproof adjustable arm thing unintentionally. I feel pretty bad about it, but it was an accident. It has 3 loading positions, and I was trying to do leg extensions, and the plates were loaded on the bottom, or the middle 2 or something, I can't remember. But I wanted it to be more lengthened, overloaded. So I put the plates up at the top pin and wasn't thinking through the consequences of that action very clearly, because as soon as I extended my legs, the thing flipped over on me and like almost like trapped me in the machine, and then like part of the arm broke, like a weld inside of it snapped or something. So I mean, they said this is just like an older prototype, so I wouldn't conclude anything about the build quality based on that, but I felt bad because now they got one of their main things at their booth is broken, so hopefully they don't hold it against me too much.
So thanks to Mark, aka Flex Marks the Spot, for capturing this as it happened. I didn't even have my camera set up yet because I was just trying to like get a feel for the way this thing worked. But yeah, you can see how, I mean, it's not like I didn't even have a heavy weight on it, and it didn't even really hit the upright very hard. And actually, like the day after Home Gym Con, I think it was, I saw Larry, the owner of Bulletproof, posted a story just mentioning in passing, like, you know, they had some issues with their booth and weren't able to get some things produced on time. So they had to like use some sort of like hastily put together prototypes just so they would have something to show. And he mentioned like some things just being spot welded instead of actually having the full welds that they should have. So I'm assuming he was referencing this piece on the arm that broke off when he said that.
This is the adjustable arm here.
So here's a little bit of a closer look. This is after it was broken. You can see on the right side is where that other weight horn should be. And you can adjust the angles and everything. So with this, obviously you need to be careful when you're testing it and figuring out how to set it up. Because if you load all the weight too far on the top horn, and depending on the starting position of the arm, it could easily flip over like that. And I've had that happen with my leg extension machine, testing various setups, hooking up to the cables and stuff. Like I've had to go all the way around and flip over. So it's not like anything wrong with Larry's design or anything. It's just the nature of these highly adjustable pieces of equipment where you're really like just trying to configure your own exercises. And you just have to take your time and experiment and be careful when you're setting it up for the first time. And really, I should have realized that. I just didn't think about it in the moment. There was a lot going on, and yeah, like I said, I feel bad about that happened, but at the same time, it was obviously that there was a flaw with that specific unit, not the design itself.
All right, we got the Titan leg extension, leg curl. Let's see how this feels. I guess I gotta. Okay, well that's nice, counterbalanced. Let's see. Let me get it. The pin just exploded.
So I guess that pin was just loose from people like twisting it and stuff all day. That was just comical, but we screwed it back together, and everything was fine after that.
All right. Okay. So, cool. All right, I got 130 on here. Well, it definitely feels better than the Rogue one as far as the resistance profile. It feels just pretty even, I guess. Not overly lengthened biased, but not super contraction focused either.
So if you look at the cam here and look at the cable, you can really clearly see how the distance of the cable where it hits the cam, that distance changes as I go through the range of motion. So I definitely need to revise my in the moment comments there, because this This definitely is lengthened bias for these leg extensions. I'm not sure why. Subjectively, I felt like it felt really even. I guess it's just not as lengthened biased as my setup that I have. It doesn't drop off as much at the top, so it's not compensating for that strength deficit at the top of the movement as much. And you'll see that when I do the full set.
So this is much nicer. This like getting in and out is way easier on this than it is on that Rogue Reflex, whatever it is. All right, I'm gonna go. Here's the moment of truth. We're doing the full stack. Let's see. All right. Lock down. Got a good stretch. Pretty good. I don't know if it's as good as what I get on the unit at home, but pretty solid. All right, full stack.
So yeah, this did feel a lot better than that Rogue machine. And like I said, getting in and out with that counterbalance is just so much easier and nicer. And also switching between the leg extensions and the leg curls. And the stack does feel at least a little heavier on this. On the Rogue machine, I got 20 reps plus like 3 lengthened partials. And on this, I only get 17 reps. Granted, by the time I did this, my legs were probably already more fatigued, but there's probably like 2 hours in between. So, like I said, this is lengthened bias. Looking back at the footage and reviewing it, you see I get this last rep here. And then I try to go for another one and I fail at the bottom. Now, what I will say is if you watch this back again, you'll see that to get that last rep all the way to the end of the range of motion, I have to really put a lot of momentum and body English and oomph into that rep to get it up, and then I fail abruptly at the bottom there. So that's why I say, it's not as lengthened bias. It doesn't compensate as much for that weakness in the short position because I don't get that last rep isn't the like slow, grindy, like really gutting it out effort that I get on the machine setup that I have at home with the way I have the cable set up. So, I mean, does that mean that that's like so much better and this is terrible? Not at all. This is still great. I think it might be marginally, slightly better to have that last rep be slow and grindy. And mostly I just prefer the way it feels.
Wow, look how easy it is to get out of that. Okay, that was 250. 250. Right there if you don't believe me. Whoa. My quads are fucking locked up. Shit. Whoa. Fuck. My quads are like locked up.
My coworker goes, dude, he's going to like failure over there. Like, it's like he's repping out. It's pretty good.
Managed to get back on here for some leg curls. We'll see how this feels. This is let's not start with the full stack. Let's try maybe 100. And just locked in. See, does that angle differently or is it just fixed? Huh. Pad seems like it's just fixed, but it feels, I don't know, it's a lot farther up my calves, I think, than it was on my shins for the leg extensions. Oh, it's not fixed. It's actually, okay, it's just a free floating. Just didn't seem like it was moving much. All right, it's full stack.
So you may have already noticed that I made a mistake here. I forgot to realize that the back pad for leg curls was too far forward. I should have slid it back farther. And my knees are in front of the pivot point here, which is what's causing the problems with the roller being too far up my calves. And because it's not aligned, it ends up moving during the set, during each rep, which, might be having some effects on the resistance profile as well. So,
Oh my God, I hope my hamstrings don't just like cramp the hell out of me. But that's probably what's gonna happen.
so it actually didn't happen until 4 a.m. that night when I woke up in agonizing pain for like 5 minutes straight as my hamstrings just cramped up and refused to release.
All right, 250. Oh, that is way harder at the bottom. At the contraction.
So yeah, for some reason, this machine is lengthened bias on the leg extension, but then you go to the seated leg curl and it's like totally contraction overloaded, shortened biased. And if you look here as I get the failure, again, you can see how I fail in that shortened position. See, now I can't get a full rep, but I can keep doing partials with less and less range of motion until I can like barely move the weight. Now, if you look closely here, you can see how the cable comes up from the bottom and it wraps around this pulley at the top and then it goes back and it attaches to the cam behind where the arm is. It's kind of hidden right here. And then this line shows the moment arm from the pivot point to where the cable attaches to the cam. And here you can see how much longer that moment arm is in the shortened position, which is making the felt weight heavier. So while my poor adjustments of the seat might have had some impact, you can see that the design itself is actually still short and overloaded.
Okay. Leg curl. A little disappointing. So it was very, very short and overloaded. Surprised me because the leg extension felt very even, not really biased too much in one direction or the other. But this was like extremely pronounced shortened overload. So I don't know why they would do that on the same machine, but it's the way it is. So here's a closer look for you guys. We'll say this counterbalance makes it really easy to get in and out. The way this pop pin works. And the angle of the seat and the pad felt like they locked me in really good for leg extensions. Leg curls, not quite as good, but still pretty good.
So again, here you can see that I had two more notches that I could have adjusted the seat back, and that would have fixed a lot of the issues with the leg curls as far as, not being locked in very well and having my knees too far forward. I will say that one common thing with these machines that have round roller pads like this, especially when they swing down into position, is they land too far back on the thigh And then when you're doing leg curls, it wants to pull you forward. And because the pad is round, you kind of slide forward under the pad. This happens on my plate-loaded Titan machine. What I've done is had to add a seat belt to the machine that helps a lot so that doesn't happen. But before I did that, it was like a constant struggle to not get pulled forward out of position doing the leg curls. So some machines have a flat pad, and especially if it sits closer to your knees, and then especially if it has handles on top that you can push back against, that will really let you get locked into position for leg curls and not get pulled forward through the set.
So I'm at the Rep Fitness booth, and this is the new leg extension leg curl attachment that's going to fit on pretty much all of your benches that have accessory port, right?
Yep, so out of our current lineup, it's the Nighthawk and the Blackwing are the two benches that are compatible with this.
Will it also fit on the older like zero gap bench?
Yes, yep, so it'll fit with the zero gap as well as the AB 5000.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep. Cool. It could be plate loaded. But what I'm interested in trying is hooking it up to the cable and seeing how that feels.
Yep, it's currently hooked up to the Aries 2.0.
Yep. So we got the cable down here running over to the Aries. And all right, so what do we need? Do I need to like slide it back, or how does that?
Yep, so there's two adjustment points. So if you want to do the leg extension, it's right over here. You can adjust these rollers up or down depending on your fit.
Okay.
But you can try it out, see how it feels.
See what's a good spot to set it up.
Yep, got handles on the side. There you go.
One lower maybe.
There you go. Yep, that's it.
Cool.
So it's at 30 pounds right now.
All right.
Sorry, I don't want to take a photo of it while you're
Yeah. So can I slide this back slightly just to get tension on it from the start there? How would I?
Slide it back a little.
So this way.
Right here, it'll tighten up a little bit as we set it down. There we go.
Okay, yeah, that feels good.
I was surprised at how heavy this felt with only 100 pounds on it. Granted, I had already done a lot of other leg work by this point, so I was getting fatigued. But the range of motion wasn't great. You can see I'm not getting a very good stretch at the bottom. And when I do get to failure, you'll see that the last rep is kind of grindy, but then I still get I get like a half range of motion partial at the end. So it's more of a mid-range overload, I would say. There's the last rep. And here comes so I get like halfway up before I actually fail.
I'm impressed.
Good.
I've been going around doing like actual work sets at as many different booths as I can. And it's funny, like I've tried a few other like actual standalone selectorized leg extensions, and I was repping the full stack. You know, it says 250 pounds, but I was doing it for like 20 reps. And this, I only have 100 pounds, you know, as far as a 1-to-1 ratio would be. And I got, I don't know what that was, like 12 or something.
Yeah.
But, and it goes up higher too, so.
Oh yeah, yep.
That's really nice. Because I think that's one of the things that people don't understand it, like until you buy the thing and get it and try it. Like how heavy is it gonna be?
Right.
And, you know, depending on like how strong you are to start with, it's like you don't want to be like repping the full stack and have to add a bunch of weight with gym pins and stuff right from the start.
Right.
So that's really cool. It must be, so obviously it's just a matter of the leverages, like the pad for my ankle is here, and then but the cable attachment is quite a bit farther out from the pivot point. So that's going to magnify the felt weight. Very cool.
Yeah. I mean, we're trying to design things that really fit in the entire ecosystem without requiring additions. So it's like if you already have the Aries 2.0, if you already have the bench, you should be able to pull in an attachment and fit right in, have a good range of weight for people to work with. That's kind of our goal here.
I'm not going to try the leg curl.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't want to lay down and get the bench all sore.
Right, I know, yeah.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Appreciate
of course. Yep.
So the other reason I didn't want to try that prone leg curl is just because I just don't like that movement very much. It's always felt kind of awkward to me having my face jammed in the pad, and also my hips always want to come up off the bench, and also the prone leg curl trains the hamstrings at an overall shorter muscle length. So that's another strike against it as far as if I'm going to just pick one or the other. Again, not that it's a bad exercise, but if I'm going to pick one, it's going to be the seated every time. Obviously, in the moment, I was pretty impressed with the felt weight on this for only having 100 pounds on the stack. As far as a one-to-one equivalence. And even though I was fatigued by this point in the day, I do think that, even on my Bell's tower, I don't have a 300-pound stack, but I can link the two cables, so it's one-to-one. And, so basically I would be able to double the weight that I had going here, which I'm sure would be more than enough, even when I'm fresh. So that's not really a concern to me. Just comparing this attachment to the dialed motion attachment, I mean, it's just so much more compact, easy to move around. I have to say, just a much better design overall. So, I mean, obviously, if you don't have a cable machine, then you're going to want to go with this one. This is very stout and well constructed. It's just bulky and just is not a good fit for my needs, for sure.
How's it feel?
I like this. This is probably the best leg extension leg curl I've tried so far. It's good if I don't want to get off.
Yeah.
It feels so good, I keep going. What do you think?
So here I am with Mike from Hybrid Resistance, checking out the Prime plate-loaded leg extension leg curl. This is one that a lot of people will say is like the best out there, so we had to see what all the fuss was about. And this has that smart arm, or whatever it is that they call it, torque arm or something like that, where there's 3 weight horns on the side, and you can load the plates either at the top weight horn in the front to make it more lengthened biased, or in the middle, or if you load everything on the bottom rear peg, then it would be a lot more shortened, overloaded.
All right, I gotta try. I'm gonna load the other pin. It feels good so far, but I haven't really put any weight on it. So I want to. The thing with this is it has the 3 different loading pins. So I want to try putting a bunch of weight on the top pin, and that'll make it harder in the stretch, which I like. So I'm gonna try that now and see what it feels like. All right, we got 90, 110. So we got 110 on the top pin and 25 on the middle pin. Let's see how that. All right. Let's see if I can lower that just a little. There we go.
Tim is not missing leg day. I saw him over at the booth, was that Temple of Gainz, ripping into that leg. How do you like that leg press, by the way?
It was nice. Yeah, very smooth.
Liking this thing.
I like it. It feels like a really good resistance curve here. Like not too heavy at the top. It's still not super, biased towards the start, the length of position, but it's a little more even, I guess.
Yeah.
So this is interesting. If you watch this, I hit failure. Even though I have most of the weight loaded on the top weight horn, I still get like a full rep there, and then maybe like 80% range of motion, and then this last one I get to probably like halfway. And so it's really like, at least the way I had it loaded here was more of a mid-range overload. And granted, I didn't have all of the weight on the top weight horn, so it wasn't as lengthened bias as it could have been, right? So I actually went back the next day, and so in the first set that you just saw, I had 115 pounds, but 90 pounds was on the top weight horn, and then 25 pounds was on the middle weight horn. So 115. And then here I have the same 115 pounds, except it's all loaded on the top weight horn. So this should be like fully lengthened overloaded. And I'm not gonna do a full work set because I was already like totally burnt out from everything. But I'm just gonna talk through how it feels.
Alright, this is interesting to me because compared to how I set up my leg extension at home with the cable, this feels less lengthened overloaded, even though it's as lengthened as this machine can go. It still feels, I don't know, it still feels heavy at the top. Like, it definitely feels lighter down here. It's strange.
So all I can really figure is that because this is a plate loaded machine, and because the arm itself with those weight pegs on it has a pretty good amount of weight to it, just because all the plates are loaded on that top horn doesn't mean that that is where all of the weight that is being moved is located. Like, that's not the center of mass of the entire unit that is pivoting around the point. So basically what it means is with a plate loaded machine like this, the amount to which loading all of the plates on any of the three horns, the amount that shifts the resistance profile is going to depend on how much weight you're loading. Because if all the weight that you're loading on that top horn is still not that heavy relative to the weight of the entire three weight horn arm itself, then it's not going to shift the resistance profile as much. If you loaded like 5 plates on that top horn, then yes, it would be extremely lengthened overloaded, because that's way more than what the arm itself weighs. But when you're only loading like 100 pounds on it, I don't know how much that arm total weighs, but it's probably more than 50 pounds. I mean, it might even be 100 pounds. I don't know. I'm not sure what it's made of. And it has a counterweight on it, but I just don't think that counterweight must not be enough to like completely counteract everything else. Obviously, because otherwise the arm would just be like balanced, right? And like free floating if the counterweight was that heavy. So that's, I think, one of the drawbacks of the prime plate loaded unit, as far as I can tell, is that the amount to which you influence the resistance profile with the loading just depends on how much weight you're loading. So if you're doing higher reps or lower reps, the way you need to load it changes if you want it to have the same resistance profile. So it seems like it would get very complicated, and you'd have to do a lot of experimentation, I guess, if you really want to dial it in and get it to be like specifically loaded in a certain way every time. Whereas I know they do have selectorized units that operate the same way, but you just with that, it's just different cams that you can select. So with those, you know that whether you're loading 100 pounds or 300 pounds, it's you're gonna basically get the same resistance profile either way. But it's not really, it doesn't seem to work that way with the plate loaded. At least that's my guess as to what's going on here, because that should have been very lengthened overloaded, but it didn't really feel that way. And again, part of that is because you're naturally stronger at the bottom, so it feels easier. But that just shows that the loading pattern was not enough to overcome that natural strength deficiency in the top part of the movement.
Starting to feel hard, so I'm gonna get off here before my quads start cramping up and try the prone leg curls here. I gotta adjust this a little higher. Now these, definitely I can feel these getting lighter at the top. They're very heavy at the bottom, and then they get really light up here. So it's heavy, probably heaviest right here. And then...
All right, so looking at this, you can see how the end range of motion on this machine for the leg extension and the leg curl is basically exactly the same. Like the plates end up in the same spot, the arm is in the same position at the contraction on both movements. So the fact that the leg extensions still feel heavy at the top and the leg curls feel light at the top, it just goes to show you that it's more complicated than just looking at the machine and seeing like where the external load gets lightest, because the body's internal strength curve also factors into it. And in this case, this machine, from what I can tell, seems to work really well for trying to get a good lengthened biased profile for the prone leg curls. But when it comes to the leg extensions, it still doesn't seem to get light enough at the top. And again, that's with this lightweight. With a heavier weight, I think it would be a more pronounced effect. Okay, just to round this out, there were a couple more units that I checked out at the show. One was by Bear Steel, and I didn't do a full set on this. I just kind of got on, checked out the adjustments, and did a few reps to see what the weight stack felt like. This one, actually the one at the show had a handle on the side that I know a lot of people were complaining about, like being awkward to get into the machine because this handle was like poking them in the ass when they were trying to get on it. It's not shown in this picture, so I'm not sure if the final production unit will have that or not. I would assume maybe it will, since that's what they had at the show. And this is from a YouTube video a few months ago. Okay, I just looked at their Instagram page, and they had a post saying that they took feedback from people at Home Gym Con, and they're updating the design before it gets into production to change the handles from the ones that people were complaining about to a different design. And I guess they're also adding a flat leg holder pad on top with handles, which, I was saying earlier, I think is a much better design for leg curls so it doesn't pull you forward. So that's good. Another thing it had going for it was that the stack felt pretty heavy, heavier than most of the other units. So I don't know if there's a 1 to 2 pulley somewhere in there. However, the resistance profile wasn't great in my opinion. It was very obviously hardest in the right in the middle of the range of motion, not and it was fairly light at the bottom, and then it got heavy in the middle, and then it dropped off at the top. And this is a close-up of the machine and how the cables are routed. This pulley in the center actually moves with the arm that the shin roller is on. So that comes forward and pulls on the cable. And because of this shallow angle that it starts out at, that's why it feels light in the bottom, and then it gets, I mean, it ramps up quickly, but it's still like halfway through the range of motion when it feels the heaviest. So not ideal in my opinion. I also briefly just sat down on the body solid unit and just did a couple reps. It's basically just the same thing, it seems like, as their plate-loaded machine, except that it has a cam attached to it and it's hooked up to a cable stack. But the issue I had with this is that the leg roller on the front there is just fixed. It's just welded on. There's no adjustment. It doesn't articulate or, pivot with your leg as you go through the range of motion like some of the other ones. It's just a fixed right angle piece of metal. So there's like no adjustability. And I sat down on the machine and it was like way too high on my shin. And I was like, well, this one's not for me. And I would assume, unless you have just the right shin length for that to line up on your ankle joint, it's going to feel off. So that was an instant no for me once I realized that. I just quit looking at it altogether. And then lastly, two that I'm really kicking myself for not trying. They just somehow slipped by under the radar and I didn't get to check them out at all, were the Temple of Gainz and the Bolt Fitness. And it sucks because they both have that flat leg holder pad with the handles on it that I know is a lot better for leg curls. And yeah, it's just, there's just so much stuff at Home Gym Con that I don't know. I feel like it's impossible to see it all with any kind of depth. You have to pick and choose what you're gonna check out, and sometimes you, in hindsight, make mistakes in the things that you pick and the things that you don't. Okay, keeping in mind that this is all closely tied to my own personal biases and preferences, what are my overall conclusions? Well, in my opinion, the obvious choice for worst machine was the Rogue. It had a terrible resistance profile, the stack felt pathetically light, and the setup was awkward and annoying. The best machine? That is a lot harder to pin down. Being completely honest, I didn't like any of the dedicated machines that I tried better than the lowly Titan DIY cable setup that I have in my basement. The Titan stack-loaded machine is definitely much easier to get in and out of and easier to switch between exercises. And the leg extension has a pretty good resistance profile, if not quite perfect by my very particular standards. On the other hand, the leg curl has a resistance profile that's totally backwards from what I want. And the range of motion on the leg extension is good, but it's not great. With the rotary setup of the plate-loaded machine, you can really just crank that arm back as far as you can possibly get it. The only limit is whether or not you can fit your feet and legs in between the seat and the pad. The Prime plate-loaded machine is great in terms of build quality, but my attempts to get a really lengthened resistance profile for leg extensions just kind of left me cold. In addition to the usual drawbacks of plate loaded machines, the different loading options with the 3 weight horns kind of just make everything exponentially more complicated if you want to be meticulous about tracking your progress, and especially if you're going to use it in different rep ranges, and you want to make sure that you're keeping the resistance profile consistent. How do you do that when you're changing the total weight that you're loading and then loading it on these different weight horns, and then the weight of the arm itself factors into that? So, there's a lot of math that would go into making that accurately consistent, and I don't think anyone's actually doing that. I'm not saying that it's something that you would need to do. I just know that it's something that would annoy me and kind of bug the OCD side of my brain, not having that down to an exact science. So I think the selectorized version of the Prime machine would be much better in that regard, since you just switch the cam between 5 different positions, and that's it. You know that the resistance profile is going to be consistent regardless of how much weight you load. All that said, even with the selectorized version of the Prime machine, it still doesn't do seated leg curls, which, again, I prefer greatly versus lying leg curls. And also, the Prime machine is probably the largest unit in terms of footprint, and definitely the most expensive, and realistically, I'm never going to buy it anyway. I didn't like the profile on the bare steel machine, and the body solid, like I said, just wasn't adjustable and didn't fit the length of my shin. I guess it's possible that the Temple of Gainz or the Bolt machine were just really perfect, but fortunately I missed them at the convention, didn't get to try them, so I can't say one way or the other on that. So as it stands, I haven't found a selectorized machine that would legitimately tempt me to switch away from my current setup that I have in my basement right now. In reality, I would actually be more likely to swap it out for a really great bench attachment. I have limited space in my gym, and the Titan machine takes up a decent chunk of it. So if I could sell that and replace it with an attachment that was just as good, or being realistic, let's say 90% as good, it might be a worthwhile swap for me to make. I could make use of the extra space immediately just to leave the freak athlete set up and ready to go for back extensions or Nordic curls, or even some ab work, if I could persuade myself to do that more often. It would probably help if I had the bench set up and ready to go. Or I could get some other shiny new piece of equipment to go there, which would be more fun, of course. But again, it would only be worth it if the attachment was really excellent. Unfortunately, the rep attachment misses the mark for me. It does good on felt weight, but it's just okay in terms of resistance profile with a mid-range overload. It doesn't have a great range of motion, and it only does prone leg curls. Besides that, it's bulky, it's awkwardly shaped, which makes storage an issue, and attaching it to the bench is fairly cumbersome. So at this point, the only real contender for my gym is the dialed motion leg developer. I can get a good range of motion, and it has a lengthened biased resistance profile. It does seated leg curls, with the bonus of also being able to do prone curls, and even preacher curls. It's also extremely quick and easy to set up and folds up to a very compact package, and it has a convenient storage solution, just being able to hang it right on the wall or on a rack or wherever you want to mount that plate. Lastly, based on my tests at the convention, I should be able to get plenty of resistance connecting it to my cable tower without needing to add extra weight to the stack. I got roughly 23 reps with 115 pounds on the dialed motion, but that was with a full 40 seconds of rest, a third of the way through the set. Compared to getting 210 pounds for 15 on my home setup, it definitely seems like the dialed motion has a heavier felt weight. But I did have some lingering doubts about this last point just because of the flawed circumstances of the test, with the bench sliding, stopping to adjust the cable, and so on. So, in an attempt to make a better comparison, I loaded up my cable tower with 115 pounds and did a set to failure to see how many reps I could get doing a straight set with no interruptions. Well, it turns out the answer is a lot more than I got on the dialed motion. I ended up getting 34 reps and possibly the worst burn in my quads that I've ever felt. But on the plus side, it definitely confirmed in my mind that I don't need to worry about the felt weight on the dialed motion leg extensions. So as of now, it remains the front runner for replacing the Titan plate-loaded machine in my gym. And I'm excited to see what new improvements they make in the future iterations between now and when the pre-order opens, because I know they're constantly focused on improving things and making them better and trying to get their product as perfect as possible before they actually bring it to the market. So for the one person, maybe two if I'm lucky, who stuck this video out to the end, thank you so much for listening and watching. And I know this was outrageously long, but I just had a lot of thoughts I wanted to get out there. I am going to have more videos from Home Gym Con. They will not be this long, but I have a whole nother video on the other leg machines that I tried, all the compound hack squats, leg press, pendulum squats, all of that stuff, plus all the upper body things that I did too. I still have to make videos on those. So stick around and there'll be more to come if you found this at all entertaining or informative.